To talk about the Expositor building, and sort of like Columbus discovered America, even though there are really people here. John discovered this building and why it was significant. The building was already here, but it had to sort of be rediscovered. So, John, why don't you tell a little bit about what this building represents?
The Expositor was Fresno County's first newspaper building. They started at Millerton Lake, and then they relocated to the corner here in 1874. 1881, they relocated here in a single-story brick building. In 1888, they added a second floor. In the 50s, they went out of business in 1898. And the 50s or 60s, they bricked in the top windows, and then they covered it up. The stairs were removed in the 50s too, so the top floor's been vacant for about 60 years. I went down in the basement. There was newspapers down there from the 1880s, and
there were whiskey bottles and things like that too.
Bottles, all kinds of things down there.
Where are those newspapers?
I have them. Yeah. Yeah. My plan is once a successful business comes in here, then maybe I can display them inside.
So this is a classic example of what the new code tries to do with these older buildings. So we say, when this building is remodeled, you need to peel off all the junk that was put over the brick and rehab what was originally there, rather than just stucco wrap it and keep the good stuff buried for another generation. And so, we really try to get back to the original. This is one of those classic buildings, where it had the storefront. The entrance to the upstairs was right there on the right. Isn't that correct, John?
Yeah.
You had the clear story windows. Then you had, 4 windows to the upper floor over there. Great little cornice at the top. I mean, it was a really humble, inexpensive to build, but perfectly executed building. And then our culture did this to it for who knows why. And so, we want to get back to that classic way of doing these buildings and make them thrive again. Like a year and a half ago, John, we went urban spelunking in the building to see if there was what was in John set it up with the owner. I volunteered to tag along with him and some other folks. We had to climb up pipes and do kind of crazy stuff to get in up there, but it was really neat, and more has happened since then to try to get the building restored and work with the owner. John's done a great job of letting us know what was there, and this was considered to be a throwaway building, but now it's a registered historic site because of what lies underneath all this stuff that we see here. It's our first newspaper, one of, if not the oldest commercial buildings remaining, and so it's a really important building. Sadly, you never know it, but we're hoping to be able to get it back. And so this kind of showcases a lot of what went wrong, what went right originally, what went wrong, a generation ago, and what we're trying to make right again in the current day. Another interesting thing to note is that when Fresno was originally laid out by the railroad in 1872, it was subdivided. All the blocks were 400 feet long by 320 feet long, with a 20-foot alley in the middle that went behind these streets that went this direction. And the original lots were all 25 feet wide, which is the same width of a San Francisco row house lot. And so all of Fresno was originally subdivided into that width. And this is one of the few 25-foot wide lots that still remain. So this lot is 25 feet wide by 150 feet deep. And the entire area, that was the original development pattern. And then over time, people would buy a couple of adjacent lots, merge them, and build a bigger building. But a lot of the building footprints that you see here are still increments of 25. It's 50, it's 75, it's 100, because they merged together a couple of those lots. But this is one of the few original 25 footers.
So I would say sometimes in revitalization as a community, we have a bias towards fixing up our big buildings. And They're more expensive to fix up. They're incredibly complicated. You have a lot of market forces. So we all want the Bank of Italy building to be fixed up, of course, right? It's gorgeous. However, I want to challenge you when you go to another city to see what kind of businesses you actually go in, right? You can walk around San Francisco and see very tall buildings with closed lobbies, and you're probably going 2 doors over to a restaurant or a pub or bookstore or whatever in a 1 or 2 story building, even in San Francisco or New York. So I would argue that most of the revitalization happens in these smaller buildings that lay between the taller buildings that we spend most of our energy on, it seems. So I just went back to Brooklyn a couple of weeks ago, and it was hard to find a restaurant or bar that was bigger than this, right? Maybe a little bit, but most of them are the 25-foot, maybe 50-foot size, and they're all packed full of people, and they're nice and small, and they're a good operation. We always tend, I think we've over the last few decades tended to think almost too big, one big place rather than having 10 little places on this block that are all interesting. So these to me are the priority now.
No, and I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things that we did in the final version of this code to really make it work is we worked hard to strip out any remaining big site bias. So in the 70s, 80s, especially when there were redevelopment agencies in California, a lot of the thinking was, oh man, we can't do anything unless we have 5 acres to work with. And so if you look at an aerial photograph of Fresno in 1950, you see those original 400 by 320 blocks were still there. They were broken up into multiple small lots. And then you look at the aerial photo today, and certain streets have been taken out because, in the 70s, they couldn't build anything unless they had 4 blocks to work with, and they clear it all out, get rid of the streets, plunk a building in the middle. And a lot of zoning codes all across the country are biased toward those big lots and those big sites. And so they'll have, a minimum lot size of 1 acre or 2 acres, or there are rules that nudge you to merge lots and consolidate into big sites. So they would say, you're allowed to build a density of 50 units per acre, but if you can merge a 5-acre site, well then we'll let you do 100 units per acre, and we'll let you pack more on there, trying to nudge people into that. And we actually we've stripped out all of those kind of biases, and we want to encourage small footprint buildings to fill in. And so, I think it used to be considered just the worst thing ever to allow small buildings to fill in the empty spots. We've got to get rid of all of these, leave Bank of Italy, clear out the rest, and then have a 300-foot wide, building that goes up however tall. And now with the new code, again, if there's an empty space that's that big and someone wants to fill it in with one building, well, that's fine. But if say this one here, I don't know, John will tell me if I'm wrong, but let's pretend for the moment it has no historic value and it comes down, and a new 5-story building that's 50 feet wide like that goes in its place. Awesome. We don't need to clear out the whole lot. In fact, the best cities are often incremental, these 25 or 50 foot wide buildings, and you have 10 buildings on one block. And so we've stripped out all the bias for doing the 1 building per block model. And someone wants to do that and it works, fine. If someone wants to fill in building lot by lot and do it incremental, that's awesome too. We have no minimum lot size. So if you find a 2,000 square foot little scrap of land and you can figure out a way to make a cool building fit, we'll approve it. We have no large lot bias anymore. And so we want to get back to that old pattern of filling in buildings lot by lot. And so, if there's a building that's not worth keeping in between 2 great gems, and it's just a 50-foot wide site or even 25 feet wide, put a new building there, go up 5-10 stories. You can engineer it. Don't let anybody tell you different, because some people say, oh, I can't build on that small of a lot. Yeah, you can, and we'll allow it now. And that's just one more way we're kind of getting back to our roots, because that's how this whole area came to pass. A builder would come and pull together a couple of lots, and if the neighbors wouldn't sell out, fine, I'll make this work, and we'll go vertical on a small lot. So if a few of those happen again, we think that would be great, and there's nothing to prohibit it now.
How about outdoor dining?
Outdoor dining. That used to be considered a scourge, and it needed to be prohibited because we're putting people, out in the public way, and what if the city's liable if they trip, and this is just, it's an impediment to traffic, it's the worst thing. Now we consider it to be a high order of awesome, and we allow it, and we encourage it, and we make it easy. And so we want to see all, restaurants that come along on these streets put tables and chairs out and get more life out onto the street. And we're going to make it as easy as possible. Few rules to make sure it's laid out right. We still have pedestrian travel paths, and the quality of the stuff that's put out there is good, and the area is kept clean. And other than that, we want to see tons of it. So, if Fulton Street was lined with sidewalk cafes in, the next couple of years, I think we'd all be thrilled, and we've removed all obstacles to that in the new code.
How much interest is there? I'm worried, I see how amazing it could be, but are there people, ready to do it, or, you put it in and go, well, I hope people do it, or is it
Yeah, we actually, so the Downtown Partnership, we're fielding multiple calls a day, almost every day. So even I was calling Aaron last night at 6:30 to get some information on something, and he was out touring around another business that's looking to locate here. It's funny because the last few businesses that have opened are on Kern Street, where they already have kind of a complete street. Carolyn Ver has Tree of Life Cafe, and Scharburger just opened right next to her. We've had 3 restaurants from downtown Visalia locating in downtown Fresno. So they're sort of getting how the downtown business flow works, and they're seeing opportunity here to expand, which is funny because usually you'd think it would be a Fresno business expanding to the smaller town, but because their downtown is faster. So we did a business plan competition to have a year's free rent down here. We had, I think, 25 semifinalists and then 10 finalists, and 6 out of 10 are either opened or are in the process of doing construction right now. So it shows a pretty high demand. Certainly it'll go up once these fences are down, or when we know that they're going to come down, because it's a little bit scary for business to see construction happening. But as we know, it's going to wind down as we get closer to May. I would expect activity to go up again when people can see that it's actually, one, they can see it's happening now, which is good, but 2, when they see that it's going to be finished on time and look good and deliver on the promise, it'll be even more demand.
And all I would add is that, it's still not where it needs to be, but it grows every day. More people kind of wake up to the fact that, hey, this is going to happen. This is going to be cool. I want to get in on it. We still need to hustle, though. And the partnership is hustling, and us at the city are hustling. Every day we're meeting, with folks. There was a group that was just through town that wants to build a facility, and they were considering other parts of town. We brought them downtown. We toured them around. We showed them, buildings that are available. All of a sudden, now they don't want to be anywhere but downtown, and it wasn't on their radar screen before. But because of hustling that Craig and Aaron do on the private side of things, and because of what we're trying to do day by day, we get more people believing and interested. We still need more, and we still have a lot of work to do. But hopefully, as people like you all learn, what's coming, you spread the good news, and more people, kind of believe. The more that people kind of, understand what's happening and believe in the possibilities, the better that gets, and the more people will be interested. So, that's one of the added benefits of stuff like this, and the Downtown Academy is just, people are aware, and then they share it with their friends, and people come to check it out and kind of start believing,
So you probably said this, and I should know. When is the projected date finish? When's this going to be open?
May
In May.
of 2017.
Yes. Okay.
So far, they're only 1 week off of their schedule, and they hope to be able to make that week up. Good thing about the project this size is when they've run into a problem like glass block in the sidewalk or a basement that they didn't know was under a parking lot, instead of that stopping the project, they're able to move on and do other stuff over here. So they keep moving around just so that they're not losing schedule time. So that's good. We have meetings with the business owners and property owners every 2 weeks, with the president of the construction company, the head construction manager from the city, and the parking contractor, to keep people as informed as possible, because you could go to it 1 week and hear what the next 2 week plan is going to be, and then you go back 2 weeks later and that plan has changed because they found a basement or a PG&E vault right next to the oldest sewer line in Fresno, which is at Merced Street. They'd never even seen pipes designed that way. And they're like, everyone thought there were 2 PG&E vaults, and there are 5. And water runs through the sewer line and the flood control line, and they're about 1 foot away from the PG&E vault, and the requirement is 5 feet. So since they didn't know they were there, now they find them, and then they have to keep redesigning and get the new designs improved. So it's incredibly complicated, and it's really kind of fun to go to those meetings just because it's such an amazing project. But it does make it very hard to tell everyone exactly how. I mean, the original plan was thrown out almost 2 weeks after we got started. Said, okay, that's not going to happen that way, and it just keeps evolving as we go. But by and large, on track. And yeah, so the original idea was to finish that block and finish the sewer line through Merced. Then they could do the northern block after the sewer line was done, and then they'd do the middle block. So as you can see by construction fencing, that's not the way it worked. They will finish with this third block. We call that Super Block 3, south of Tulare. That will be finished first, and that fencing will be coming down within a few weeks. But the Merced sewer line that was supposed to start at the beginning hasn't even started yet because of all the issues with the vaults and distances. And oh, by the way, the sewer has to keep operating while they're doing the construction. So we're hoping that that'll be started relatively quickly, which will speed up that whole northern block. But in the meantime, they're working in the middle block here too. So just, it's very, like I said, very fascinating project because it has so many moving parts to it. So we're just going to be a new street. They'd have done it in weeks. But the artwork, if you haven't seen it yet, it's all being restored. And some of that restoration work, we already have some photographs up on the Downtown Fresno Partnership page. It is gorgeous. So everyone that was worried about the art is going to be very, very happy with what's happening through that restoration process too.
On the last tour, you weren't sure if they were going to use reclaimed water.
Oh, I still haven't asked that yet, although I do know I saw purple pipe on the northern end, but I'll have to find that out. I forgot. What else? Anything else? So I would say, if you're looking at these storefronts, and I'm renting second floor lofts, and I'm talking to you about living upstairs above a shop, you can clearly see living above Casa Latina would be a very dark, cave-like experience. And even though this isn't really much of a historic facade, you can just see adding the windows to it makes it a much better option to say, yeah, I wouldn't mind living up there, and I could look and see everything that was happening. Same with, this is actually a really clean second floor when we did the volunteer work on it, it was a year ago maybe? Incredibly clean, great bricks, wood floor, gorgeous space. Wide open. Yeah, wide open. You see someone tried to do something over here, kind of clunky, and then over at the end with all those little colored pins in it, a couple of those tiles fell off a few years ago, and there's gorgeous brickwork up there. So again, hiding windows. But you can look at all these behind us and say, they're dark second floors that are virtually unusable. So getting those to come down